Hey there, Adrienne Elise here, just popping in to talk to you about what's going on in the planets and stars. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for March 26th through 29th. So Mercury is just a couple of days away from it turning direct. It's been quite a journey. It's Mercury retrograde through the second half of Pisces. Now it's made it back to its last degree of this retrograde, 16 degrees Pisces, the exact location of Neptune. And these guys stay together exact for over a week. Typically, Mercury is going to move right over Neptune. It's going to last a day or two. So, wow, a whole week of Mercury and Neptune together. And it's saying, it's interesting because Neptune is such a slow-moving planet, but it's made it to the second part of Pisces. And Mercury's saying, okay, like this retrograde is like, we've had such big shifts of energy with Uranus and moving into Taurus, Chiron into Aries, big generational shifting energies. And Mercury's saying, going back into Pisces, trying to figure out how to get out of the past. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac before Aries, the spring, and the new incarnation energy. So Pisces is about resolving the past and clearing up the subconscious and sorting out things that are holding us back, that are deeply hidden in our psyche. So that's brings a whole bunch of confusion, right? Because that level of work does not make sense in our everyday reality. So people are feeling very confused about everything in their life right now, and a complete breakdown of the ego personality constructs of our past. Now, that's because Pluto and the North Node are coming together very close. They will be exact at the end of the month on the 31st. Now, Pluto is it comes in and it breaks things down so that things can be built up in a better way. It's the ruler of Scorpio, and it's about going into that shadow, into the darkness, and clearing out what's been hidden. Okay, so a lot is being revealed, and it's interesting in the Northern Hemisphere right now. Here we are in the spring, and it's an interesting metaphor, like where I live, and the snow is melting very quickly, and it's kind of revealing, all of the mud and the muck and the dog poop and, whatever else has been, the lost keys, all these things that have been hidden in the snow, and they're being revealed. And this is a metaphor for what's happening right now in our own life and in the collective consciousness. And Pluto with the South Node is like breaking it down. So this is where we're feeling uncomfortable and unknown and ego death, and everything's kind of like falling apart. But what's falling apart is actually the constructs that you've been used to from the past. And what the energies that have been going on is around this huge generational shift that's trying to happen, totally new energies with Chiron and Uranus moving into new signs this spring. But what's coming up is where we're attached or addicted to the past patterns, because it's what we know. And we can full well know that it's unhealthy and it's not serving us, but it doesn't make it any easier to get out of those patterns. Except Pluto is coming along and is going to be wrecking those down, right? And showing us what is not true to who we really are. So everything we're going through right now is about getting to a more true place and being ready to move into the future. We can't go into the new energies while we're dragging behind these same patterns. We're just going to fall right back in to those old patterns. And so Pluto, the South Node, is saying, wreck it. It's got to be wrecked. It's got to be broken down and rebuilt. So here we have a brain to understand this big, expansive consciousness, right? And maybe that's a helpful energy right now around trying to stay in the bigger picture of things. And not get too worried about the daily life breakdown that's happening, and just know that that's the process you're in, because you're shedding that old skin, and you're not going to shed that skin until it gets uncomfortable, and Pluto conjunct the North Node is making it uncomfortable. And but that's serving us on a greater level. So we've got a lot of stuff around the past, but we also have an interesting little aspect going on with Jupiter and the North Node. So Jupiter and the North Node are in inconjunct, which means they're opposite each other, but one sign over. And that has an energy of an adjustment that needs to be made. So this is where we get the information about how to deal with the breakdown, the confusion, the redirection that's trying to happen in our lives. Our little ego self is like clinging on to what we know, allowing this shift to happen. So Jupiter's at home in Sagittarius, but it's been bam, 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 these aspects like in square to Neptune, and tension energy around whether or not we get to enjoy and experience this Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter loves being home in Sagittarius, and Jupiter wants to expand and grow. And in Sagittarius, it's expanding the wider path, the bigger vision, the wider knowledge and understanding of what's going on. And it has to do with this feeling of getting back on our spiritual quest. For a lot of light workers, it's a very powerful energy, because it's been lifetimes where you've been thwarted in this quest, and now you've been so programmed against this quest, you don't have a quest. You don't even feel like you deserve a quest. You don't even know why in the heck you're here. Why are you bothering on planet Earth? And Jupiter Sagittarius is saying, yeah, it's time to get back on the quest, right? Now is the time. And yet there's been all of these confusing, hard aspects, and those eclipses and this Mercury retrograde. And so we haven't been able to really enjoy this. Now, so this is a very important message coming through. In conjunct to the North Node is saying, okay, there's an adjustment that needs to be made. And what is that? And that has to do with the North Node in Cancer. And Cancer rules nurturing and self-care and feeling at home and safe, right? So how can we get back on our quest in this Earth evolution if we can't land on the planet? That's a lot of the energy of Uranus moving into Taurus. It's infusing this Earth. Instead of trying to escape this Earth to the spiritual world, it's about infusing this Earth with spiritual energies and transforming the physical world and moving mountains, right? So here we go. Now, it's interesting because today, we're talking about this Chiron shifting into Aries and Uranus moving to Taurus, big shifts, okay? And Chiron has made it today to 2 degrees Aries. So it's like, okay, it's really in Aries now. And that's as far as it made it last year, was 2 degrees. So it's about to move out of its retrograde shadow and into that new territory. Uranus has made it to 1 degree tomorrow. And that's like, okay, we're actually in the Taurus energy. We're actually doing this, and it will move out of its retrograde shadow over the next couple of months and into new territory. And it's been about a year since it was there. Last year, these planets made their initial shift, went back into retrograde, and that was like 2018, this big adjustment, confusing retrograde year, right? And now it's finally time to move into those new energies, but we've got to break down these old patterns that we're addicted to in the past that make us feel safe, but aren't actually serving our higher purpose, that quest, that Jupiter and Sagittarius energy. So how do we get out of this and move into the next? Well, we're kind of going to be here, right? Because we've got a whole week of Neptune and Mercury kind of in council, right? And it's almost like completely opposite sides of the spectrum, because Neptune is this connection to the wider, bigger consciousness, the whole, the oneness. And Mercury is our everyday reality. And those things, up until this point in our reality, haven't been able to really coexist, right? At least in these recent evolutionary times, thousands of years, there's a disconnect between our everyday reality and source. That's a separation, the illusion of separation, that we're not part of source. That's how the whole domination, persecution, patriarchal takeover of the earth was able to happen in the Piscean age. was using that oneness principle because we couldn't actually bring it into our everyday reality and accept that as true for ourselves. We have to go through the church, or we have to go through the organization, we have to go through the elders, we have to go through some sort of initiation process in order to have this direct connection to source. And that's total BS, right? So that is a really beautiful energy. If you can use this adjustment energy of the nurturing is how we get through this period of time. It's how we get back on our quest. And what are we nurturing? We're nurturing our relationship, our direct connection to source back into an everyday conceptual reality that's total truth for us. This is the only truth. You know, we have facts and we have truths and stuff, but it's like the further you get into truth, you'll realize that there's bigger, wider truths that make those other truths not true anymore. And the one thing that's true is our true self, which is this particle of God consciousness that is who we are. And so Mercury and Neptune is giving us an opportunity to, I'm kind of seeing this picture of going back and forth over this next week between the wider, bigger picture of the consciousness and the oneness and that connection. And almost like maybe we're nurturing ourselves, earning our self-worth back into this connection, healing the wound of separation so that we can move into the next chapter and get on with it, right? We've spent hundreds of thousands of years, too long here in this place of being thwarted in our spiritual evolution. And it's time to move on. And it's rather dramatic on some levels, which is that Pluto conjunct the South Node. And it's kind of like the ground that you've been stepping on and standing on is false ground, and it's breaking through. And it feels like that free fall feeling. But that means you're doing it right. That means you're letting the ego death happen and getting this new conceptual reality, this redirection in your life that's based on the truth of who you really are and your connection to source. Your unfailable, uncorruptible soul connection to source. It's been there all along. We've just been programmed to think that we had to jump through some hoops, be good enough, earn God's love back because of all of the programming that's happened. And so it's time to rearrange and redirect. And that's what's happening. So sit tight. And the thing with the Mercury Pisces is it's really good for dreaming, visioning. It's not time to leap ahead or make a whole bunch of action steps until Mercury turns direct and kind of gets out of its shadow. But this next period of time leading up to April 20th is when, so on the 17th, Mercury will come out of its retrograde shadow and move into the sign of Aries, really potent and powerful over that Aries point, a brand new birth for our conceptual reality. Then it comes into conjunction with Chiron on the 20th of April. So really good for Earth Day and celebrating this new chapter on our planet in this evolution. But we gotta be ready to let go of these constructs that might be helping us feel safe, but it's a false security. And the truth of who we are is the only true security that we have here. And so I hope that you have a beautiful time of visioning and dreaming, and especially as that Mercury turns direct. It's early in the morning on the 28th. And in my time zone, in mountain time. And so it is a very potent time to just pay attention, sit tight, watch what's happening, and allow these redirection to happen in your life. So I look forward to connecting with you next time. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.